Hello and welcome to the class. So, in the subject secondary or senior secondary education, today's topic is the selection criteria and the organization of the content in curriculum construction. So, we are going to basically go through various criterias which are considered while preparing curriculum and when the content has to be selected, how it is organized and what is an proper way to organize the content in a curriculum. So the learning objectives for today's class is to illustrate the role of curriculum in effective teaching and learning, to identify the various criteria of content selection while preparing curriculum, to explain the ways to organize content in curriculum construction. So to many of us, curriculum means one or more of the following points. Some believe that curriculum is only the list of contents which are taught to the students. Some believe that it is only a set of subjects. Some says curriculum is the syllabi followed in a school or a college. Curriculum is the program of school or college activities. It is a set of study materials. It includes both curricular and extracurricular activities which are organized in a school or an educational institution. So, curriculum comprises all those experiences a learner receives in a school or in a college. So, no one is clear about the concept of curriculum, that what all areas does curriculum includes. So, first of all, we have to learn, we have to know as a teacher trainee that as we are going to be a future teacher, so we should know that what does all this term of curriculum encompasses. So basically, all the learning which is planned and guided by the school, whether it is carried on in groups or individually, inside or outside the school, this whole is a curriculum. So we can say that a curriculum term signifies a course of studies and it is followed by pupils and teachers in a curriculum in a educational institution. So the concept has changed in nowadays. It consists of the totality of experience that pupil receives through the manifold activities which goes on in the school, in the classroom, in library, laboratory, workshop, playground, and various numerous interactions which goes on between a classroom, between a teacher and the students. So it is both formal and informal content and process by which the learners tries to gain knowledge and understanding. So it is not rigid, it is flexible, it is not standardized or uniform to be followed in a prescribed pattern. It has variety, it is tailored to the needs of the students according to their age levels. So it gives the students an increasing awareness of the environment around them so that they can fit in the environment more definitely, adjust in the community life later. So it basically secures more integrated group relations. The Secondary Education Commission has also pointed out clearly that curriculum does not mean only the academic experience that a child receives at school. So, in this sense, we can say the whole life of the school becomes the curriculum, which can tough the life of the students at all points and help in the evolution of a balanced personality. So, let us now take a look at the definitions of the curriculum so that it will give us a wider outlook. According to Munro, curriculum includes all those activities which are utilized by the school to attain the aims of education. So, whatever the activities are carried out in a school to attain the various aims of education for the all-round development of students, it we can say that the curriculum includes all those activities. If we talk about John F. Kerr, we have recently discussed that all the learning which is planned or guided by the school, whether it is carried on in groups or individually, inside or outside the school, is known as curriculum. So curriculum does not necessarily goes on inside the activities of the school. It also is related with the activities which are going outside of the school. So in whatever part the learning is taking place, it all covers the curriculum. So there are certain elements of curriculum without which we cannot say an effective curriculum can take place. It can be implemented because modern education is the combination of dynamic processes in which the process of individual development and other is the process of socialization. So these all are covered in the curriculum. So these are the elements of curriculum: situational analysis, formulation of objectives, selection of content, scope and sequence, activities, strategies and methods of teaching, and evaluation. So basically these are the 5 elements of curriculum. So first of all, we will discuss the situational analysis. It is the analysis of the situation which is going on around us. It is the environment in which we live. It is the country in which we live. So the curriculum planners have to decide according to the emotional, political, cultural, religious, and geographical conditions of a country. They have to select certain objectives on the basis of these criterias. They have to focus their attention on various determinants. So these also affects the curriculum construction, whether it is sociological, cultural determinant, psychological, philosophical determinant. So the curriculum planners need to select the right learning material, organize it in proper way, and then suggest appropriate evaluation procedure. Then the next element is the formulation of objectives. We all know that without the formulation of objectives, we cannot reach to our goals. So there are 4 main factors for formulating the objectives of education. And these are the 4 factors: the society, the knowledge, the learner, and the learning process. So all of these factors are to be considered while selecting and formulating the educational objectives. So this is what we have discussed, that there are certain determinants which have to be followed. While, for example, the society, what are the norms, traditions, values which are carried out in our society? The knowledge part, how we want our students to gain knowledge at par with which level we want our students to gain knowledge. The learner, because the learner is the center of our education system, so we have to take care of this factor and the learning process. So according to the changes which are coming in the recent times in education, the teaching process, the learning process has also changed. Now the students are very much smart. They have 21st century skills. They know how to use technology. They are sometimes more aware than the teachers. So for this, the objectives have to be framed according to the situations, according to the, by doing the analysis, and after that only the objectives should be framed. Then the selection of content. As we have information overload, we have so much of information available around us, but now the task of curriculum planners is to find out the right content for the right ages or right class. So it is one of the important elements. So some factors which need to be considered while selecting matter for to be included in the curriculum, in the syllabus. These factors are available sources and resources. What sources and resources are available? Demands of the society. If we talk about our Indian society, it is progressing after so many years of independence. It is now progressing. Many things have changed. Many set patterns have changed. So what is the demand of the society? The international needs. This is very much important in the era of globalization. The curriculum planners need to consider what are the needs at the international level, at the global level, which we have to take care. level and age of the learner or student. So this is the basic psychological determinant which need to be taken care of. Methods of content organization. After selecting the content, it has to be organized properly and presented well before the students, before the teachers, before the parents. Number of courses offered. What kind of courses has to be included? For example, latest inclusion of artificial intelligence as a part of syllabus in few schools right now by CBSE is a new concept, new thinking. So this is how few new courses are introduced every time, and every time curriculum planners are trying to introduce new things in our education system so our students can learn many new things at a young age also. Quantity and qualification of teaching staff. Yes, this is very much important, that in a country like India, where the population is much more than the resources available, than the schools available, yes, we still need many teachers in our schools, and due to certain restrictions and resources, there are not enough teaching staff, they are not qualified. In many schools they are not qualified enough to teach, yet they are teaching there. So we are compromising with the quality of the education. So this also is a factor which is required while selecting the content. Scope of subject matter. What areas should be considered? To what areas the subject matter is related with? The system of examination. Yes, the system of examination is very important, as in India we see that the examinations, on the basis of examination only, the summative evaluation, the students are promoted, they are given ranks, they promoted in the next class. So this is very important to be considered. And the type of society and culture, this we have discussed about the society norms and the cultural and traditions which need to be taken care of. Then the cultural strategies and method of teaching. So this is very important because in our classes, as we say, we are seeing that there are certain teachers which are not qualified. So they follows the same pattern of teaching which has been going on since ages. So some new strategies, new methods, new teaching techniques need to be adopted by the teachers during instruction and learning experiences. So this will certainly not be fair to ask a teacher for achieving certain objectives without giving them any guidelines. So in most of the countries, curriculum development is a centralized procedure done at a central level. Teachers are not directly involved in this phase, and most of the teachers do not know the process of achieving desired goals. They don't know that why this curriculum is framed, why this syllabus is being given to them, what changes have taken place. They are not they do not are not aware of that. So after determining the goals and objectives, the next problem is the selection of strategies and methods for teachers. So there are certain handbooks which are prepared by CBSE time to time, NCERT, so that they provide guidance to the teachers that how to proceed, how to bring new changes while dealing with the students of today's generation, what we should give to our students. Should curriculum be fixed or flexible? It should be common or differentiated. What all courses need to be included? So based on that only, the curriculum planners can move in next direction. Then the most important element of curriculum is the evaluation phase. As evaluation is one of the dynamic process, it is continuous, and it is continuous because it is for the betterment in order to cope with the variety of demands of the society, and thus bringing about the desirable changes. So in the form of feedback, in the form of researches, new things can be added in evaluation, and the evaluation of curriculum is also very necessary. So curriculum evaluation does not mean that it is an evaluation of the student. In its broader term, we can say that it is a judgment about the worth and effectiveness of the curriculum. So with the help of evaluation phase, the experts will be able to modify the curriculum by bringing the desirable changes. So this is very important, and this there are certain phases which need to be followed, and feedback is one of the part of evaluation. Feedback need to be taken at the student level, at the teachers level, management level, all with from all the stakeholders of education. So in this way the curriculum experts will be able to decide that on the basis of that, on feedback, on various researches taken place, how we can bring changes in the next curriculum formation or while doing any construction. So now we will talk about the selection criteria and the organization of content. And first of all, we will look at the concept of the content. What is a content? So content is defined as information to be learned in school. It is another term for knowledge, which consists of collection of facts, concepts, generalizations, principles, and theories. So this is all content. This is how when we open a textbook and we come to know that this is the content we need to study. And on the basis of that, we further study according to our interest from the various resources. So this is how content provides us information. It gives us whole concept, whole idea of the content of the particular topic which we are studying. So content must take account of the environment in which the course will be used. It should take care of the needs of the learners, and also the various principles of teaching learning must be followed. So content can come in any form. It is not necessary that it should only be given in the textbooks. From wherever we get the knowledge, we get the information is a content related to our topics and subjects. So it can be in the form of audio, text, or video, and it can inform, it can entertain, it can enlighten, or it can teach us people who consume it. So in this way, the content plays a very important role in various modes. It not only informs, it can also gives us pleasure. It can be interesting, and we learn and be entertained by the content. We are sometimes enlightened and taught about a new concept. We self-discover, we try to understand everything. So this is how contents can be presented in various forms. So what are the purposes of presenting a content before a student? This is to help organize materials. As we have talked about that there is a information overload around us in today's world. So we need to focus where we have to go, how we have to proceed, what concepts we have to learn. So it helps in organizing materials. It helps in the sequential relationship of the material. So whatever we are going through, whatever the content we are going through, it is related to each other. There is a sequence in it. We go through first of all the meaning and concept background, then we go through the characteristics, then further events, and later part and we analyze or criticize, and then there is a conclusion. So this is the sequence which helps us in understanding the concept very easily in a relaxed manner. It presents material basic to a general understanding of a course. Yes, if we go through the content of a subject, of a particular subject, we come to know that what is the proper, what are the terms or concepts we are going to cover in this subject, what is the content we are going through in this course. So this helps in that. It also furnish a source of valuable information. Of course, we will get the information which is very necessary at the school level, because there are certain informations which we are getting at the first time, which we are receiving for the first time. To present application. Now, the content which has been produced before us, it does not mean that we have to learn that by heart or do the rote memorization. We have to understand that so that we can apply that in our daily lives. So the content is united with the goals and objectives of the basic education curriculum. When the curriculum framers have prepared decided the goals, the objectives for which the curriculum is to be prepared. So the content should be selected and organized in such a way that it is united with the objectives which we have decided earlier. It responds to the needs of the learner. We cannot present a very tough content before the learners, or in the language which is not clear to the learner, or in a very tough manner, or without any examples and just the theoretical part is given. So the content should always respond to the needs of the learner of that particular class, of that particular age. It includes cognitive skill and affective elements. The content should not only be based on the cognitive part, but it should also includes the domains of affective part and the psychomotor domains. So the content should be such like engaging with the students, the students feel engaged, take interest, further they want to find out about that concept. They not only gain knowledge, but they understand it, and for the lifetime they understand whatever they are reading or learning. It fully and deeply covers the essential to avoid the mile wide and inch deep impression. So, whatever content is presented before the learner should affect them, create such an impression that they understand the concept thoroughly. It should be of the use for the learners. They should not feel that it is of no use to us. It should be practicable and achievable. So the content whichever is presented, the student should feel that the content is right, that they have presented the right facts. It is practical, yes, it can be done, it can be achieved if there is any activities or any examples given there. So these are the facts which are basic in the structure of cognitive subject matter, but content must go beyond facts. So it is not necessary that only facts are given in the content. It should, such engaged material should be presented before the learner, that they should understand that the knowledge which is being given to them is related to their life, it is around them, and it must go beyond facts. So working out a process of conceptual understanding means teaching and learning beyond facts, and this can be done by the use of the integrated approach, the correlation concept which we talk about, in which not only the certain particular thing which a teacher need to teach or the content presented before them should teach, but there should be integration with other topics, other subjects, other areas also. So the content is subject matter which integrates the cognitive skill, the affective components. It includes facts, concept, principles, hypotheses, theories, laws, whichever are applicable to the concept. Now we will go through the criteria for content selection after understanding what is content and what is the purpose of content for a learner. The first criteria is the self-sufficiency. So, as we can see, according to Seffler in 1970, the prime guiding principle for the content selection is helping the learners to attain maximum self-sufficiency in learning, but in the most economical manner. We all want that the learners, when go through the content, they should feel that they are getting enough from the content, and they are understanding what is given in the content. So they should become self-sufficient. They will be able to learn self-discovery. They will be able to do, they will be try to learn on their own. If the content is tough, it is not interesting, it is not presented according to the needs of the learner, so maybe the learner will find it difficult and may lose interest in it. But it should be done in the economical manner. It should not waste their time, it should not waste the resources. Then the next criteria is economy. So economy means less teaching effort and educational resources, less learners effort, but more results and effective learning outcomes. So that means it should save time, it should save effort, it should save resources. Not again and again teacher has to teach or understand, make their students understand the concept. The learner's effort should not be wasted. There should be results after the learning of the content. There should be effective learning outcomes. Then only we can see that it is very economic. The content which have been selected is very economic. So this criteria has to be taken care by the curriculum planners. Then there is significance. This is very important because when content or subject matter will contribute to basic ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization to achieve the overall aim of the curriculum, it will be significant. So it should be very important, valuable. It should develop learning abilities, skills, processes, and attitude among the learners. So if it is not of importance to the learners will oppose it, they will not take interest, and the purpose for which the content has been selected, for the objectives which have been framed for the achievement of all goals will go in vain. So it is the content is significant if it will develop the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor skills of the learners. Yes, this is the main aim of the education, that we need to develop all the aspects of the learners, whether it is related to cognitive part, affective domain or the emotions part, the psychomotor or the practical part, and the cultural aspects also. So it should be useful in their real life. So, while talking about that, it should be relevant to life. The learning experiences must be related to the learner's real life situations which occur before them inside the school and also outside the school. There are certain text materials which are presented in our textbooks nowadays, in which the real life experiences are given in the form of examples. As such, we feel as a learner that yes, it is related to our experiences. Then the next criteria is the variety, and variety is the very important part in our life also. We do not want to go on a certain path in a certain manner which becomes boring later. So the learning experiences must cater to the needs of different types of learners by providing different types of experiences. So there should be variety, there should be different kinds of material or content should be included, so that it creates interest among the learners, as variety is very important, otherwise it will lead to the boredom, and the boredom will later on turn uh, learners into a negative learner. So this is very important to bring varieties, add spices in our content. Suitability, this is very important because it should be suitable to the learners. If in the way of learning or any characteristics, it should be according to their age, their need, their mental level, so it should suit them. Validity, this is very important criteria. It is related to the authenticity, the evidence behind the content which has been selected. So no wrong content or wrong fact based content should be presented before the learners. So this refers to the relevance of the stated learning experience to the stated goals of the curriculum. So whatever goals have been set up, the curriculum, the content should cover that. It should be able to reach that. It means two things. That is, the content related to the objectives and the content is true and authentic. No false information without any verification should be included in the content. Interest, this is a very important part of the criteria. It should suit the personality and intellectual capabilities of the students. So is the content interesting to the learner, or can the content be made interesting to learners? So this will be known to the curriculum planners when they get the feedback through the various processes of curriculum evaluation. There are certain models on which the curriculum evaluation is done. So this is how they can bring changes every time, and they can follow the selection of the content on relying on the criterias. Utility, it is concerned with the usefulness of the content. So the question comes, whether the content selected is useful. How will anyone come to know? That is, will it lead to the acquisition of skills and knowledge that are considered useful by society or by the learner himself? So these questions the curriculum planners have to pose before them, and then they have to follow the content selection. Then there is feasibility. It means to compel the planners to analyze and examine the content in the light of the time and resources available to the students, cost which are available, the socio-political, cultural aspect, climate, whether it is feasible in today's world, whether it is required to be taught to the learners of 21st century. So we have to find out, the curriculum planners have to analyze the situation and then examine and then select a certain content. There are certain other considerations that may be used in the selection of the learning content, and that is, if these are frequently and common used in daily life, they can find out that. If it is suited to the maturity levels and abilities of the learners, if it is valuable in meeting the needs and the competencies of a future career which our learner is going to make. Is it related with other subject areas? Because we have to correlate and integrate. So the content should be based on such a concept. It should be important in the transfer of learning, transmission of learning. So after discussing the criteria of the selection of the content, now we will discuss the organization of the content. We have decided, found out the content, we have collected the amount of content which we have to put forward through our learners, but how it should be organized. There are certain ways which need to be considered because it demands a thorough understanding of the teaching learning process. So the important aspects for organizing the content are sequencing, continuity, and integration. So let's take the first point, that is sequencing. It relates to when different parts of the curriculum should be learned with respect to the other parts of the curriculum. So it relates to what should be taught or learned. It is the integration or the balancing part actually. So integration relates to how different strands of a piece of curriculum relate to other things, and whereas continuity relates to how previous learning and future learning relate in terms of cumulative effects of learning. So this we have discussed in brief. Now we will discuss in detail. So the first part is sequencing, and it means putting the content and materials into some sort of order of succession. For example, if we are learning history, then we cannot just straightly put the content of modern history before the learners of the sixth standard. We have to slowly move on in sequence, like we will go through ancient history first, then we will go to medieval history, and after that modern history or world history. So this is how a proper sequencing or order of succession has to be followed. So it relates to different parts of the curriculum, and it should be learned with respect to the other parts of the curriculum. So there are many ways in sequencing. This we can see that there are certain maxims of teaching learning. And what are those? First is the simple to complex. That means a simple thing should be presented first in among the learners, and then we should lead to the complex part. So this is also sequencing. from going from simple part to the complex part. So this is the chronological thing, in a sequence we are going through. Then it could be easy to difficult. First the easy concepts are given, then we reach out to the difficult words. So the how the development took place. So in this way sequencing can be done. Prerequisite learning. Whatever previous learning is required for reading learning a certain content, this should be made aware to the teachers and the learners. Whole to parts. First of all, sometimes information is given in the form of whole concept, and then it is certainly divided among the parts. For example, we do content analysis in which there is a particular topic and we divided it in certain parts, so that we can understand different parts in a easy manner. Then part to whole, this can also be done, where the parts are given first, various parts are given first, and then the whole knowledge is sequenced and given. So known to unknown. So there are various ways the curriculum planners have to decide that in which they have to sequence the content. Then the next part is continuity, and it means that content should provide continuity in learning and prevent loss through forgetting. So continuity is very important, that whatever the learner has learned, it should not be that they forget whatever they are learning. The student should be provided with experiences step by step. Then there is integration. So learning is more effective when facts and principles from one field can be related to another, especially when applying knowledge. So while balancing or integrating, the curriculum should integrate cognitive, affective, and psychomotor objectives and abilities, the knowledge and experience, objectives and the content, children's activity, needs with the society. It should be related to the social environment of the students. So this is how the balancing and the integration part will be done. Selecting and organizing content. So planning curriculum is similar to the guided tour, that how we are going to guide the students and teachers. So various options of how to reach destination is given through the content. And when we go on a guided tour, we have a proper planned itinerary in advance, so that we avoid confusion, it saves time. Similar is the condition with the carrying out implementing the curriculum, that it is a guided tour. We need to know in advance what should be done, so that there will be no confusion while implementing, that a successful transaction is done in the classroom, and it also saves time. So at broadest level, it involves selecting, structuring subject matter to be taught to reach broad program goals. Learning becomes development of a series of connections among concepts that hold real meaning and relevance for learner. So this is how today we discussed about the various selection criteria which are required while constructing a curriculum, and also how in which manner by following few steps we organize the curriculum in a uh, organized manner, in a systematic manner. So these are the certain few references which you can go through. These are various national and international resources available, where you can better understand the concept of the modern curriculum which is required to be understood by the teacher trainees nowadays. Now we will move on to our next section, that is the evaluation questions. Question number 1 is, an outline of the topics of a subject to be covered in specific time is called. Options are program, syllabus, curriculum, or course. So every option which we are seeing here have different meaning, and it is only the outline of the topic of the subject which need to be covered in a specific time, then we can say it is the syllabus. So syllabus is a part of curriculum. Program is a part of curriculum. Course is a part of a curriculum. So curriculum encompasses all these concepts. Question number 2 is content in the curriculum can be in following form. This we have discussed that in various ways content can be presented before us, and there is not only one way in which it can be presented. The options are audio, text, video, only audio, only text, or only video. So this we can clearly indicate here that the correct answer is the audio, text, and video. Yes, the content can be presented before us in any manner, in any way, in any mode, whether it can be audio form, the text form, or the video form. So all this, which you are, if you are watching any video, educational video on YouTube, that is also a content. If there is a registered YouTube channel for your course, for your faculty is taking any kind or teaching any kind of topic and making it available to you, that is also a content and resource for you. Next question is cognitive content do not includes. So cognitive part usually includes the knowledge part. So the options are emotions and feelings, facts, concepts, principles, and theories. So here we can clearly identify that the cognitive content do not include the emotions and feelings, which is an aspect based on affective domain. Next question is dash criteria means that the content is related to the objectives and is true or authentic. So the options are interest, economy, validity, or reliability. So here we have to identify which of the criteria means that the content is related to the objectives and is authentic and not any false information is given. So it should carry out the task which has been assigned to it. And the correct answer is validity. Question number 5 is dash is concerned with the usefulness of the content. Options are relevance to life, interest, utility, or irrelevancy. So here the first three options are the proper criteria for the selection of the content, and if we look at the part utility, it says that it is concerned with the usefulness of the content. Question number 6 is effectiveness of curriculum is determined by evaluation, objective, method, or design. So how do we know that the curriculum which has been implemented is effective? So there is a certain phase on the basis of that we can determine that, and that phase is evaluation, which after that only, after feedback only, the curriculum planners will be able to analyze and examine that how much the curriculum which has been implemented is effective. Next question is which of the following is not the criteria for selection of the curriculum content? So we have gone through the criteria of the selection, and the options are self-sufficiency, validity, economy, or video. So here we can see that the first three options are the criteria, and the fourth one, video, is not the criteria which is being considered by curriculum planners while framing the curriculum. Question number 8 is, with the help of dash phase, experts can modify the curriculum by bringing about desirable changes. When do curriculum planners come to know that they have to modify or bring changes in the curriculum? So there are certain phases according to which they decide upon that. And the options are orientation, evaluation, desirable, or outline. So out of this, the correct answer is evaluation. After that only they will come to know that they will modify, they will test the effectiveness of the curriculum so that they will be able to bring the desirable changes. Question number 9 is, it means putting the content and materials into some sort of order of succession. What does it mean? There are three criteria for organizing the content, and the options are integration, balancing, sequencing, or evaluation. So which criteria or the concept of organizing the content means that the content and material should be put into some sort of order of succession, and that is the correct answer is sequencing. So it should be put in proper sequence. Question number 10 says the curriculum should integrate because it follows the principle of integration. So what should it integrate? The options are cognitive, affective, and psychomotor objectives and abilities, effectiveness of curriculum, cognitive content, curriculum evaluation. And the correct answer is cognitive, affective, and psychomotor objectives and abilities. So the curriculum should include and integrate all these domains. The objectives should be based on all these domains. Then only a curriculum could be planned or can be effective, in which the curriculum makers have decided. So with this, we come to the end of the topic. Thank you very much, and we will see you in the next class.